Hey everyone. This isn't quite a Halloween review, but it is like one of my favorite books that I've read over the past year, and you can already tell uh, that I have pretty much like started to wear it down as far as like readability goes. Fortunately, it's still all clear that you can read it. This is filmmaker David Lynch's memoir, which he co-wrote with Christine McKenna, and probably my favorite joke that I've always like shared with whoever's seen me reading this book is that, can you believe that little kid became that? That's kind of like my favorite joke, and I just love watching the reactions I get for this from this book. It's actually a very good book if you've never heard a lot about David Lynch, or I've only seen like one or two of his movies. Um, I actually have like a pretty close connection to David Lynch because when I was writing my first novel back in high school, I was very into writing the weird. And looking back on that first novel, I pretty much think, okay, that was kind of like a Pure Flix version of a David Lynch movie. And if you can imagine that, you can imagine like what that would be. I remember watching interviews with him a lot and noticing that he always used like abstract whenever talking about his films. And I always said, okay, he must be into meditation because those people always talk about abstracts as in images and stuff like that. And yeah, he is into is it transconsonantive meditation. I'll just say TM. It's just how they always do it. But this actually has a very unique style. Because I'll go ahead and show you. It's got like this very. Let me give you a good example. Whenever Christine writes a certain section of the book, she always like writes it like a typical biography fashion. But what's cool about it is that like she will talk about a certain section, like she'll talk about a particular film that David Lynch has done, and then he will start talking about the same subject, but all from his perspective. So you have like a very odd kind of disconnect, where like you're seeing like the individual recounting a story that you've already heard secondhand. So like that's a very unique kind of aspect to it, which is pretty cool. And I am a big David Lynch fan. Weirdly enough, my favorite David Lynch film is The Straight Story, but of his weird films, which is saying something, I'm probably tied between Mulholland Drive and Blue Velvet. Both of those are great, and I think what is so weird is that I have actually never seen any of the Twin Peaks show, not the original '90s version or the sequel series that's come out recently, and yet I've watched Fire Walk with Me, so I'm like, I'm probably the weirdest of the fans of that particular film. But most people that loved the TV show didn't like the film. So I don't know if I would actually like the show if I watched it from the perspective of seeing the film version first, because even the film is more like a prequel / sequel to the series. So you never know. But I think the guy's fascinating, and he's actually a pretty good actor. I just recently saw him in a movie called Lucky, where he plays like a side character, and he actually gives like a great performance. Check out Lucky if you haven't yet. It's Harry Dean Stanton's final film before he passed away. So check that out, and check out Room to Dream.